What is up, everybody? I'm NoLucksGiven here with your afternoon snap, and today we are taking a look at the finals from this week's community gaming tournament, and we're also going to take a look at the semifinals. That's what I've got queued up here. First, we're taking a look at Emperor versus Shang-Chi. That is the smiley face opponent there, playing Thanos with Leader, and Emperor is playing kind of like a classic looking Odin on reveal deck. And they were nice enough to stream their perspective to me. They are playing on their mobile device, so this setup is a little bit janky, but thank you very much to them for providing all of you here with this gameplay. And then we're gonna get into the finals after that, but we are starting things off with a snap from Shang-Chi. We have Zabu from Emperor. And that looks like it's going to be enough for Emperor to stay in it. And yeah, Zabu is typically, when it's in your deck, it's one of the most powerful cards in your deck. So staying in it with a Zabu in hand seems like it's going to be pretty good. We are going to see some notifications pop up from time to time throughout this game, but we're actually going to see Emperor lead off with a Scorpion. Rather interesting. And then the first mode on Nico was the duplicate a card ability, I believe. And now we've got the demon ability, and we've got Gamma Lab as location number 3, Monster Island as location number 2. And it looks like we are going to convert that Nico into a demon while playing a second card into Zabu. And apologies, a little bit of technical difficulties here with that, but I think that that is the last technical difficulty that we'll see, as a Stone plus Shadow King go into the Gamma Lab. We're going to see a small Hulk advantage here from Ishan to start this game off. Jubilee does seem like it could be pretty good into that first location, because you could grab a card that then wouldn't get its power reduced, but Dr. Doom could also play into that location at the last second, and Jubilee itself is going to be able to turn into a demon thanks to Nico. That little animation there reminding us. Soulstone going to get pumped up actually in that first location, and then we've got Space Throne as location number 2. That is now going to go in Ishan's favor. Odin is going to hit on that Jubilee yet again, giving an Iceman to Emperor, and they are just barely winning in the Gamma Lab, but this is not looking good. Emperor does have Ironheart to potentially even steal a win in Space Throne. Looks like they're going to go for that this turn, but they won't be able to drop that Shang-Chi, and they probably will lose in the Gamma Lab regardless. So this game really could come down to where this Ironheart trigger lands. If we get an Ironheart trigger in the Space Throne, we could actually still see a win here for Emperor. So we'll see where this lands. Reasonable odds, but no, those are all going to go into Gamma Lab actually, which kind of makes me feel like Emperor is now pretty far ahead in Gamma Lab, ahead by 10 points, but I can't imagine that you want to stay in it here to that. I mean, like, a Shang-Chi flips the location super easily, and like a Magneto could even still steal it, and they've already lost in that center location. So I do believe this is going to be a retreat for 4 cubes to start things off for Emperor. By the way, I do know which of these two players wins this match. So I'm a little bit spoiled, but I don't know how the individual games go. And also, for the first time in a few weeks, I am completely unspoiled on the finals. I've got no clue who is actually going to win the tournament as I am recording this video. I managed to stay unspoiled for myself, which is fun. We are going to see a retreat here, a slow retreat for Emperor. So we will have a small cube lead here for Ishan. And I believe that I said this at the start of the video, might not have, but Ishan top forward a event back in December, one of these community gaming events, I believe. So that is why their name is a little bit familiar to me. And yeah, it's always cool to see like repeat names come back in some of these tournaments. And one of the one of the semifinalists, somebody that's going to lose the match that we aren't going to look at, but we will look at their deck list, by the name of Weisei Lei, I think is how you pronounce it, but I'll double check on that. They've also top forward a previous event, so it's kind of cool covering these for about 2 months now that I've been able to see some names pop up multiple times, both on throughout like multiple events, and then also on like the top of the leaderboards as I've been viewing those Marvel Snap Post Infinite leaderboards a little bit more recently. Reality Stone is going to come down into that center location, change it into Kiln, and Murder World is our third location. That looks like another copy card for Nico. I do believe in the first game it was copy card. It could have been draw on the first turn and I just missed it, but I do believe that it was copy. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that. We're going to see a turn 3 Ironheart. Not an incredible amount of value, but still, hey, we'll take what we can get. You could play that Ironheart into Murder World even, but then you wouldn't be able to get Odin value off of it later on in the game. This is a very interesting list from Emperor. I think the Jubilee and the Iron Lad are really the main ways that you gain an advantage with your Odin, in terms of like having a little bit of like on reveal, or ramp rather, because there's no other ramp in the deck other than of course that Zabu, which only ramps out those 2 cards that I just named. And then I guess Wong can also set you up for some nice like double Doctor Doom value. We're gonna see Nico and Shang-Chi get played into the Kiln this turn to battle for that against Ishan's Time Stone. Shang-Chi is unfortunately going to miss before turning into a demon, and Vision could tie that center location if they want to, though I feel like you're probably not going to go for that, and we see a snap from Emperor. Yeah, going for a tie against a, like, rather than just moving your Jeff out, probably seems like it could be a little bit better. And so the White Tiger, is that going to go into the Kiln? It does, so we definitely won't see Ishan play for Kiln this turn, but a Devil Dinosaur and Priority for... and no Shang-Chi left for Emperor means I feel like we might see Emperor retreat, and Eliath into Hell's Kitchen should seal the deal here. And I'm not sure that Emperor could have any potential play around that. We see the snap, so are we going to respect it, I guess, is the question. You have to imagine that there could be an Eliath here. The players also don't know each other's deck list though, which is a huge factor in, or I would say it's a huge strength of Eliath in a tournament like this. I say, of course, you gotta respect the Eliath, but without that snap, I'm not sure if Emperor would have thought about Eliath, but you snap, and now you're only getting 2 cubes. I mean, you were getting potentially 4 for just letting it ride and dropping the Eliath down, but because of that snap, we are going to see a retreat there from Emperor. Maybe they would have retreated regardless here. These are both pretty good players, and that is going to now mean that Ishan is up 10 cubes to Emperor's 6. We've got Nico on the +2 power mode to start things off. Those little indicators there definitely come in handy a little bit. And then we've got Zabu into Iron Lad, so a pretty reasonable curve from Emperor. I haven't talked about Ishan's deck too much. It is, you know, we see more of the lockdown Thanos pieces there. No Blob, which is really interesting. Instead, deciding to play Leader, which is not a card that we are typically seeing in Thanos lists or just like in general in Marvel Snap right now. And the lack of Blob on top of that, I think, is even more surprising. On Emperor's deck, I think the most surprising thing is a lack of Grandmaster, the newest card added into the game. This tournament was played on Tuesday night after I guess it was played 3 hours after Grandmaster was been released into the game. So the players did not have too much opportunity to test and brew with the newest card, but it is fun when some people take it into these tournaments. But no Grandmaster in this one, unfortunately, even though it does seem like it would be a shoo-in for Emperor's deck. So they have now currently set up with a Wong, and they could Jubilee into Hala to make sure that they don't lose their Wong, but we're going to see an Iron Lad into Dr. Doom for double Doombots, and that's probably going to... Oh, okay, so the Wong plus Iron Lad will get destroyed, but this is still looking like a pretty commanding position for Emperor moving for the rest of the game. White Tiger is a little bit of a liability because it could lock you out, so we are going to see a Jubilee plus a Scorpion, which could still lock you out if you find that Odin onto the Jubilee. But you've got to try to battle for that Tiger's location as well to keep your opponent on their toes, and then assumedly you're looking to play Dr. Doom into the final turn of the game to still battle for that Devil Dinosaur's location. Jubilee, what's that going to bring? It's going to bring Ironheart, not that much power into Hala, though the Devil Dinosaur is briefly a little bit smaller. It is going to get pretty big pretty quickly back from these stones, and a Psylocke on the final turn of the game is going to mean Ishan has 7 energy. Shang-Chi's a great draw. Shang-Chi's probably good enough because you can kill the Devil Dinosaur. That will win you Hala, and that should probably just be enough to win the game. Ishan without priority means Eliath isn't going to do anything, and it wouldn't even be good enough because it would only win in one location. So I think we might see a retreat here from Ishan. What else could they have? They could potentially play... I don't know. I don't really see it. I mean, they could just hope that Emperor does not have Shang-Chi. I guess that's really their only play at this point, but they are going to retreat. So yeah, this is the semifinals of the tournament. Both players playing it pretty conservatively here, and that is, I feel like, what we see pretty often in these tournament style games. Players being very willing to retreat, which is just good Marvel Snap as well. But when everything is on the line for these final cubes, I think that we'll see players even less willing to snap and more likely to retreat. No snap here yet in game number 4. And we've got Strange Academy and Sakaar coming out as location number 2. We do have the Zabu for Emperor, and we've got the pair of Dr. Doom plus Odin, but I don't think that that's where this deck wants to be. Now, they can Wong and Dr. Doom. That part is fine. But again, with... Oh, right. I was going to say there's no way for them to get this Dr. Doom out of their hand early so that way they can Odin it. And then, of course, it happens. Okay, great. So now we see the Rickety Bridge as location number 3. That's going to tie it up. And that looks like the duplicate card ability. The thing is, when I'm just trying to, like, briefly read it, sometimes the first turn you have Nico, it doesn't show you that icon, and I'm just seeing the word Karta, so I'm not exactly sure what that means. Oh, a snap from Ishan is going to be a retreat there. Wow, so they really did not like the Rickety Bridge. I guess the Rickety Bridge does kind of favor the Thanos player pretty heavily with those stones. Honestly, that's pretty surprising, but some good snap pressure there with the, like I said, players are going to be very, very willing to retreat in these high-level games. And now we see an Altar of Death, similar to Rickety Bridge. This gives a lot of power to Reality Stone on the final turn of the game, and gives a lot of reward to the player playing a bunch of stones in their deck. And Psylocke, now Ishan is going to have 6 energy on turn 3. Okay, those rocks might complicate something, because now it's going to be tough, because we're going to have to see a skip here on turn 3. But honestly, Emperor did not have anything to play this turn regardless, and Ishan is potentially going to have to waste 6 energy if they want to get into the game right here and right now. So this is a pretty bold snap from Ishan. Both players declining to skip. Instead, we're going to see Space Stone and Vision come down from Ishan, and we could see a skip now on turn 4 as they move some cards into the Altar of Death. We're going to see Wong come down for Emperor. Odin onto that Ironheart in the Wong location is setting up to be pretty powerful. But, what do you do with this game from there? If you play White Tiger, all of your tigers die. Oh, no. Your tigers don't die in Altar of Death. I'm sorry, having to translate here. I was thinking of Rickety Bridge from last game. Okay, no, so this is great. You just fill up the Altar of Death with tigers, and you hope that Ironheart is also able to do some fun stuff. Oh, a rock moves out. A rock moves out of the Rickety Bridge, and we see some BM there from Ishan as Eliath comes down to take out the Wong. And now we're in it for 5 cubes, so this is the game right here for Emperor if they lose. White Tiger coming into the Isle of Muir, or Muir Island. Which one is it? I forget. And we're going to see Time Stone plus Iron Lad for Professor X, locking down the Isle of Muir. And now it should be pretty easy for Ishan to just take over the location with all the rocks in it. They just have to play a card that costs... they just have to play Thanos and they win, right? It's pretty straightforward. Thanos, Devil Dinosaur, that should all be pretty good for them. It is a little bit awkward. They aren't able to move their Vision out of the Muir Island. So they've got a huge lead there that they can't really do too much with. And I guess Emperor does have the ability to play Jubilee on this turn. So they're not totally out of options here, but I do have to imagine, I think if you're Emperor, this is a pretty terrible place to be. You've got to stay in it. You can't retreat. The game is already maxed out on cubes. So I think we are going to see Ishan take it here. Like I said, I do already know who wins this one. So yeah, it is. It's looking like the writing is on the wall here. I assume we'll see, just something get played just to play something, but that is going to be it for Emperor. Except Ishan does not have a play for the stone location. They are just going to play the Altar of Death. I was kind of trying to fake out there a little bit. They have Leader, and that's actually not even going to do anything. They just didn't have Thanos, didn't have Devil Dinosaur, so with that, they don't have the victory. And now it is 5 cubes to 3 in Emperor's favor. Emperor serving it back a little bit there after Ishan's emotes a little bit earlier on in the match, but all in good fun here, I assume. And yeah, now for the first time in this match, Emperor has a cube lead. It's a small cube lead, but we'll see if they're able to capitalize on this and take it home. Nico, that definitely said copia, una carta. So this is the copy a card mode. Looks like we're going to get multiple scorpions out of this Nico, and even more scorpions abound, or potentially some Iceman as the cloning vats pops up as location number 2. So a bunch of scorpions could come out, and that is going to be enough for Emperor to snap. Ishan snaps back saying, "I'm not afraid." And this could be the final game, now in the other direction, with Emperor playing for the win from this one. So Scorpion is going to hit Time Stone, comes down. That is a really, really powerful stone, and could be enough to keep Ishan in it, just to be able to play multiple Time Stones throughout this game. And Devil Dinosaur, really good in the cloning vats. So that could be something that's still powerful. Vision, also pretty powerful in the cloning vat, so I would not count Ishan out just yet, though anything that they play is going to be a little bit smaller as a result of this Scorpion army. Emperor almost looking like a Cerebro 2 deck, other than Xandar pumping up their cards a little bit, but a bunch of Scorpions does mean a little bit of trouble for Ishan potentially. And we are going to see that second Time Stone come down, and then one card into Dark Dimension. Don't know what that could be. That could be Rogue, it could be Shadow King. That's both of those great cards to throw down in Dark Dimension. We haven't actually seen Rogue from Ishan to steal the Wong, steal the Zabu. But those could be interesting cards to come in the future. We're going to see a pair of Scorpions continue to come down for Emperor, and with 5 energy from Ishan this turn, we could see a Devil Dinosaur into that Cloning Vats. I think that could be a nice, powerful card for them to be able to lay down here. A thumbs up from Ishan. It is a Devil Dinosaur, which is slightly shrunk, but still quite large. No Shang-Chi just yet for Emperor. So it's feeling like this one could be in Ishan's favor. They're going to have Devil Dinosaur in 2 different locations. One could be in Dark Dimension or not. But yeah, looking okay for them. They do currently have priority, so something like a Professor X into Cloning Vats could be a nice way to protect their Devil Dinosaurs. Or just Alioth, both of those things. Alioth also a very, very scary threat to throw down into Dark Dimension, because you could potentially blow up all of your opponent's plays in that location. We're going to see a second Devil Dinosaur come down into Cloning Vats, and if this Iron Lad is Shang-Chi, that is huge, and it is. Emperor with the preemptive Iron Lad Shang-Chi to fill up the Cloning Vats. This Iron Lad is now always a Shang-Chi. But now Emperor has priority, and that was just massive, massive to lock down that center location. Now, at this point, if you are Emperor, you basically just probably play for Dark Dimension this turn, and your opponent has to win both of those other 2 locations. Though I suppose you could still put a little bit more in Xandar. It doesn't seem like it would be super useful for you to do so, because one Devil Dinosaur will easily beat you in Xandar regardless of what you do, and that's smart. Play the Iron Lad Shang-Chi regardless. We are going to see Scorpion come down into Xandar, potentially. No, I think that they are ultimately going to wind up double playing to Dark Dimension, just because, well, it can only be like a Rogue or a Shadow King, right? It has to be a 3-cost play. But I still think I like this. Your Shang-Chi's never going to activate, so this is just 8 power. It's the same as effectively playing White Tiger or just Odin here. So this game is still relatively close. This isn't that powerful of a play. We're going to see Devil Dinosaur come back down, and then will they have enough power? It's got to be like Power Stone plus Rogue. Okay, Shadow King plus Soul Stone, but that's not going to be enough. So Ishan is eliminated with those games with no play in the final game. Emperor is able to take it, and they are on to the finals. Before we get into the finals here, I also wanted to showcase the decks that played against each other in the losers finals. We just saw Ishan's Thanos list, but also we have Wasele on Ronin, which is pretty spicy. This is a Zabu list that also incorporates Storm plus Jessica Jones. Then the newly-ish buffed up Ronin. So we had Ronin versus Devil Dinosaur vying for 3rd place there. Unfortunately, I do not have any of the footage to showcase this game, but I did want to show off this deck list. Now let's hop into the finals, but before we jump into the gameplay, I want to look at these decks, because as you can see, Emperor is no longer playing on reveal. They told me throughout the event they switched between their on reveal list and destroy. And you're allowed to do that in these community gaming tournaments. They are closed deck lists, which means you're allowed to change any of your cards in your deck throughout the tournament. You can change one card, you can change all 12. In this case, Emperor is changing 11 of those cards, still playing Shang-Chi and throwing that in a classic destroy list. And then on Louis' side of the field, we've got classic discard, now with Mike and Dakin thrown in the mix. But this is like a battle of two pretty classic Marvel Snap keywords here, destroy versus discard. And you might have seen the semifinals and you're like, wait a minute, I know the finals is going to be destroy versus discard because of the title and thumbnail, but neither of those are in this semifinal. So that was fun to be able to keep the semifinals unspoilable as well for y'all. And kicking things off, we've got Deadpool from Emperor and Monster Island, giving both players a monster to kick things off. Kind of favors the destroy deck with Shang-Chi. There is a reason that Shang-Chi is good. You can also eat that monster up with Venom. And Morbius is going to let Emperor know what they are playing up against, because Morbius, or Emperor rather, doesn't know what their opponent is playing yet. They're going to drop an X-23 and a Nico with the Clone a Card ability. So I think we're setting up for a Venom on turn 3 into Monster Metropolis. And then we're going to get Necrotia as location number 3, our first non-monster themed location. And yes, that is going to be the duplicate cards ability there from Emperor's Nico. What are we going to see from Lou here, though? Looks like Lady Sif to get that discarded Apocalypse starting to roll, as well as pumping up that Morbius a little bit here. That is going to be a Carnage that goes to Emperor's hand, not a Venom, but still a pretty big Carnage, and that can get played alongside the Deadpool in Necrotia next turn for some nice power, potentially battling up against this Dracula. Dakin seems a little bit awkward on the curve here, but I think we can possibly make it work, and we are going to see a snap from Emperor. I think they like their curve a little bit more, and like I was saying, the Shang-Chi is also just a lot of pressure that can get played in the middle lane. This is going to be a forged up Deadpool. That is one other thing to consider, so that's going to double up to 8. And battle in Necrotia as well with that rather large Carnage. Could see a Hell Cow come down this turn. That might not be terrible. This is like such a classic discard list. I remember playing this to Infinite seasons ago, but of course a lot of the cards in the deck have changed since then. And yeah, it's kind of bringing me back here. I, of course, have been playing Classic Destroy all season, as any viewers of this channel might know. There's the Shang-Chi into the Monster Island, and the Deadpool comes back in Necrotia. Gambit, if that hits X-23, okay, it hits the Carnage. If that hit the X-23 or the Deadpool, this definitely would have been over. But it still seems like a pretty big lead so far for Emperor with what they've got going on. So they can play Swarm plus Hellcow for 11 points to win Monster Island, and also pump up that Morbius a little bit, and then Dracula should be able to take it in Necrotia. I think you could even get away with the Swarm into Monster Metropolis, but you're probably just never going to win that location regardless. And then Emperor, it seems like, might have been setting up for a turn 6 Knull into Monster Metropolis for this final turn, which honestly doesn't seem that impressive, because Louis is going to be able to battle for these other 2 locations if nothing else happens here from Emperor. They're going to need a little bit more power into Monster Island. The Dracula is going to be tough to beat, I think, though, because it's actually really close, right? The Dracula gets to get in there for, well, we'll see in just a second. The X-23 is going to go over to Necrotia. That doesn't add anything, but Death will take over Monster Metropolis. Hellcow is going to take out the Monster Island here, and Apocalypse is going to get discarded for 20 -1. Oh, Wolverine also flies into Necrotia for an extra point, but Apocalypse will take that location down for a total of 21 power there. And it's 4 cubes for Louis to kick the game off. Yeah, that was looking like a pretty good spot. I guess, Could they have played, they couldn't have really played Deathlok into either of those other places for Emperor, so I think that was just going to be a win for them, and there wasn't really much that Emperor could do from that position. So on to game 2. We'll see if Emperor is able to pull back some cubes. Colleen Wing, Dakin, and Colleen Wing, Dakin is kind of a combo. The curve is a little bit awkward for it, but you could just use Colleen Wing on Wolverine instead, though. You will have to potentially risk the Wolverine flipping over into Oscorp Tower and then giving your opponent a large Wolverine when they are already playing a Destroy deck. So that could be a little bit awkward. Blade going to be a similarly awkward card here now because Colleen Wing would discard the Blade. So you kind of have to play Blade to discard Wolverine this turn, and then next turn play Dakin, or just pass. And sometimes discard decks are going to do this where they just have to pass because the order that they draw their cards in is so incredibly awkward. Dakin coming down on turn 3. We're going to discard that Marumasa Shard at some point in the future, but not going to risk anything going into Oscorp Tower. That's the plan. Emperor might go for a Venom or a Carnage here on that X-23, which could then find itself in the Oscorp Tower and switching sides. It's a pretty low possibility, and it's potentially still worth it, but there's definitely some risk there. No, they're not going to go for it. They're going to go for an open location Deathlok to not risk losing that X-23. They're just going to slam that chicken center, and Louis will pick up the Marumasa Shard here. So now Blade is looking to discard Gambit. So yeah, Dracula this turn definitely makes a lot of sense. That's going to move over into the sewer system because of Bifrost. And Deathlok is also looking to move over into Bifrost, so we are going to see another Deathlok into that location this turn. This could mean a big Venom for Bifrost next turn with both of those Deathloks plus that X-23 that landed over in there. Definitely a possibility, and I was gonna say I think this turn we'll see Colleen Wing plus Gambit, but if you draw Morbius, I think you have to play it, so that's going to be Morbius plus, actually Gambit could be really good. If your opponent goes for Venom here, which it kind of looks like is what your opponent is setting up for, then Gambiting that Venom, you'd have a 50-50 to hit it. But I think it's potentially still worth going for. The other play is Blade plus Colleen Wing, discarding your Gambit and discarding that Marumasa Shard, regardless of the order that you play it in. We do see a little bit of debate here from Louis, and they are the discard player, and it looks like they're thinking Colleen Wing. Are they back on Gambit? This one's tough. Your opponent doesn't have that many great things in play that you don't want to hit with Gambit. Gambit's definitely an awkward card in this matchup, but it looks like they are going to go for it here. And we do see that Venom into Bifrost, which that hit could be, that's just free cubes for Louis if they are able to hit it here, or they could 1 in 3 hit the X-23, which would be terrible, or they could just take out that Killmonger. What's it going to be? Oh, it hits the Apocalypse as well, and I mean, it's a high roll. It's going for Venom. No, it's going for X-23. So a little bit of high roll, little bit of low roll. Emperor now with 8 energy on the final turn of the game. Louis can play Swarm, they can play Blade to discard Apocalypse one more time, and then they can play Colleen Wing to discard the Marumasa Shard. That makes Dracula a 50-50 to hit Apocalypse, so they might be looking for a slightly different angle here, but I don't think you're going to get better odds than that. Yeah, you just got to say, okay, maybe Dracula will hit my Wolverine. If it does, Wolverine does get to come out into play. Oh, we could play the Marumasa Shard. You know what? I think I like that. I think I like just playing the Marumasa Shard here. That way, Colleen Wing will guarantee discard Wolverine, and then Dracula 100% discards the Apocalypse. We're going to see a snap here from Emperor. I believe that was a snap from Emperor. I saw red coming out there, and it was. We're going to see a retreat there from Louis. 8 energy is really, really scary. they did have a pretty good setup. They were able to guarantee discarding Apocalypse for a pretty big center location, but they didn't win a battle for it ultimately, and that is a-okay. Blade, Colleen Wing, and Gambit, if they can draw something good to discard, their cards are potentially being drawn in the right order this game. So this could be a really big high roll here for Louis. They do want to get out the Morbius though on turn 2 just to be energy efficient. So we are going to see that come into play on turn 2 against a Change Lane Nico from Emperor. I've been playing Destroy a bunch this season. I can maybe count on one finger the amount of times I've used Lane Change Nico. So really interesting. And then Mike off the top, one of our newest cards here for Louis. That's going to be good. We see Mike plus Wolverine, though Mike against the discard deck. You just saw Killmonger in the last game. Not going to be super impressive. Deathlok's just going to destroy some stuff and then move over a lane where Blade takes out this Wolverine here while X-Mansion is about to go off. This is a pretty bold play. Double play into X-Mansion on turn 3. White Queen for Emperor. That's going to get them a copy of Gambit. And then Martyr for Louis. That is an interesting one. White Queen, yeah, always giving them a copy of Gambit here. And then a snap from Emperor. Gambit can, interestingly, discard X-23 and Wolverine out of Emperor's deck. And Martyr is like kind of a low roll, and that's going to be enough for Louis to get out of there. Louis has lost more games currently than Emperor has, but it's not about games. This is not about win percentage. This is about cubes. So some smart retreats and some smart snaps to put the pressure on for Louis means they're still up 8 cubes to 6. That's not a great location for a discard deck to get a bunch of sentries, and a destroy deck can kind of make use of the sentries occasionally. Plus it's just a blank location, so hard to say that that alone puts the game in Emperor's favor. But I don't hate it. Yeah, they are going to go for a sentry here to kick things off. And then Sokovia, a discard location, kind of good. I would say that's good for Louis. Getting rid of your opponent's death is certainly an upside. That's one of the payoff cards out of the destroy deck. So getting rid of that, knowing that you won't have to contend with that on the final turn of the game, I think is good for you. Though unfortunately you did not discard one of your upside discard cards. We're going to see the Sentry come down into that first location, and then we've got Mindscape, Campo Mental as location number 3. Whew. Okay, that makes this one really interesting. And then a snap from Emperor, but this time Louis accepts the snap. We're playing for it. Death, no longer a card that Emperor has to worry about passing to their opponent for free, which is kind of interesting. And it feels like Emperor's going to give Louis a handful of sentries by continuing to play into that first location. Dakin going to give the Maru Masa Shard there to Louis, and it probably is just going to be a turn for Dracula, even though they are going to be losing their whole hand. You know what? Mindscape actually favors Louis. I don't know what I'm saying here, because Louis can just discard their entire hand on turn 5, or if not their entire hand, like most of it with Blade plus Hellcow. That's going to allow them to discard 3 of the 4 cards in their hand next turn, which I have to feel then favors Louis, giving your opponent absolutely nothing on that final turn of the game. So let's see what Emperor is able to dump out there themselves on turn 5, but we know at least they've got a bunch of sentries in hand. Okay, this is where things get a little bit awkward. Swarm is a tricky one because now you are potentially looking to give your opponent something good. Blade is 100% discarding Swarm. You could play the Maru Masa Shard here instead and hope to get a little bit lucky. But we are going to see Hellcow and then Blade, and that is the correct sequencing to potentially give your opponent a little bit less swarms. But I have to say, this looks like it is in Emperor's favor, depending. Mindscape games get a little bit silly. But I mean, we can say with pretty good likelihood that, I don't know. Well, yeah. We know. I'm sorry. We know that Blade is going to discard Swarm. That's right. I already said that. So we know that Emperor is at least going to get 2 Swarms for free. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good start. So we'll see what Emperor is able to put out there this turn themselves with 6 energy. Remember, 6 energy, and they probably want to play their Deadpool this turn. They might know it is just going to be a Knull with their 6 energy. It's a pretty large Knull for 10, and takes away, maybe they just didn't feel like their opponent would have that good of lines here with the Deadpool. Hellcow does hit Swarm, which means Emperor is now getting 3 copies of Swarm for this final turn, plus a Wolverine, which they can maybe do something with off the top. Apocalypse off the top for Louis. That's definitely not going to come out here. Could go into the Dracula, but more than likely that Dracula is going to be picking up one of these Sentinels. And if you play to that first location, you're going to get even more Sentinels on top of that. So what can you do? You can play Venom plus Sentinel plus Deadpool for a total of 10 power in that first location. That is not going to cut it. So you've got to play only to Sokovia, and you've just got to play Sentinel plus Deadpool, and then one more Sentinel over in... Oh, I guess you could just play Apocalypse into Sokovia, but that's never... Yeah, you're just never winning in Sokovia here, right? You can play Apocalypse, puts you up to 12. You can discard one more card for 3. That puts you up to 15. Yeah, it's going to be a retreat there for Louis. So the one time they accept a snap, they get punished by losing another cube. And now these players are tied 6 cubes apiece as we move into high stakes mode. Round 5 here. This is a battle. Discard versus destroy, a battle for the ages. I thought this one was going to be fun, and it is not disappointing. So we've got Gamma Lab so far, I would say, in the dark. I mean, looking just at Louis' hand, this is favoring Emperor, and we are going to see a snap here from Emperor. Will we see a retreat from Louis? A draw of Swarm off the top would be incredible. I don't know if that is enough to stay in it, but it is, in Louis' mind, a reason to stay in it. Remember, Emperor is also the only player here with Shang-Chi in their deck. Kiln could be a location that Louis tries to battle for instead, though. And then it's all about this third location and who can win that one. So already Louis just given up on Gamma Lab. Emperor, even just with 1 Hulk, is probably going to win that location, but they are going to play a second one, and that is Nico with a ×2 ability with that Forge buff, so that Nico could potentially go to 8 here. Oh no, Bifrost is terrible for Louis because now those Hulks are going to move into an untouchable location. We do see the Swarm, but it's a turn too late for Emperor because they won't be able to play these Swarms out into the Gamma Lab. They are going to go for 1 Hulk before these Hulks move on here. Deathlok into Bifrost, and then we are going to see Nico double back up to 8. Doesn't matter, it's just going to become a Hulk. If this Wolverine lands in Gamma Lab, no, it doesn't. I was going to say we could find ourselves with a game here, but this is looking pretty firmly in Emperor's favor. I guess Dracula could do it. Okay, they're gonna battle. They're gonna battle for Kiln. Could we see Shang-Chi on turn 4 to blow up that Hulk and all of Louis' hopes of winning in the Kiln? It wouldn't be crazy. Specifically, it's not crazy because then you are throwing that 12 power onto your Knull if you're able to draw that for the final turn of the game. Otherwise, we could see like a Venom, but we are going to see that turn 4 Shang-Chi blowing up Hulk. This has got to be a really, really fantastic spot here for Emperor. Dracula, no way it is going to get to these numbers. So turn 5, if we see like a Blade or something, that could be interesting. Oh, Gambit? I guess that's all we got. I don't love it. I really don't love it, but Gambit to kill a Hulk. I mean, Dracula is just never going to be good enough. They are debating Hellcow this turn. Dakin really awkward on the curve. I think they are just going to go for Gambit and then not play the Swarm, hoping to discard the Swarm here. Emperor, what can they play on turn 5? Yeah, looks like Wolverine plus Venom. Okay, that's about the perfect play that you could have. Sets up incredibly well for the Knull as well. If you don't have the Knull, I think you still feel pretty good about your position, but the Gambit it rolls perfectly there. That was the best roll for Gambit. Killing that Venom was the only shot Louis had of staying in this game, and discarding your swarms as well. Absolutely crucial. We are going to see Dakin. I mean, we can just use Blade to discard the Marumasa shard, so this is totally fine here. Bring out your swarms, Blade for the shard, and then Dracula's gonna pick up the Hell Cow, which will not matter on the final turn, but a big Dakin gets beaten only by a big Knull, and I think this is a big Knull. Wait, is the big Knull big enough? I think so. 14. Wait, yeah, it's big enough. Knull's for 20 because that Venom just died as well. So Knull is going to take it at least 20. 29 in this case. And that's it. Emperor is the winner with Destroy, with Shang-Chi taking down Discard in the finals. Here are the winning deck lists from Emperor from this tournament. This is a weird type of tournament where it's closed deck list, but I have yet to see a player take advantage of this fact in all of my months covering this tournament. Most players find the best deck, stick with it, play it, like learn it inside and out. And I thought the story of this event was going to be one of the players switched their decks in the finals and lost because of it, because that's just like what makes sense in my head. But no, Emperor was able to play 2 decks well enough to get them into the finals and win the entire event. So I think that is pretty cool as well. I just reached out to Emperor to ask why they played both decks, what the reasoning behind that was. They said they liked both decks and they thought it'd be fun to play both of them in a tournament. So there you go. There's your answer. Sometimes fun prevails. That's going to be it for me today. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'm NoLucksGiven. Peace.